content, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like the video, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. So yeah, the first thing we're going to get into today is XDefiant, and it seems like XDefiant is getting some good feedback from the beta. I know initially it was rocky. It started off with server issues and all of that nonsense, you know, day one bugs and issues and stuff like that. And it seems like they've been hammering those out throughout the beta. But from all of that drama happening with the launch of the closed beta, people still seem to enjoy the beta. I probably played about maybe 5 hours of the beta. To me personally, it feels like the same kind of, you know, basic arcadey style shooter. But the good thing is though, is that it gives like a alternative to people who enjoy Call of Duty but may not be enjoying Call of Duty now. We'll get into some of that a little bit later. But to kind of talk about some of the things that Ubisoft is planning on doing with the closed beta, and they are extending the beta access 2 more days. Not nothing too crazy, but hey, at least you get to jump in and stay in for a little bit longer. Or for the people who have not joined the closed beta yet, you got a couple more days to actually kind of jump in, test it out if you like it, things like that. I don't understand why they still use the trash ass Ubisoft, you know, Connect launcher. I really wish they would get rid of that and, you know, follow what EA has done and kind of, you know, reset, get rid of that, go back to Steam, things like that. But you know, companies will do what they want to do. But one of the good things that, you know, some people have pointed out is that, you know, for the amount of time that it's been out currently, they have been running into different numerous bugs, issues, servers, and things like that. But the community seems to be enjoying the game. From what I've played, I do enjoy it. It does kind of remind me of like old school COD and things like that. A little bit more fast paced. Granted, I do like the new COD, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, the remakes, just for the sheer kind of realism that comes with the sound of the guns, the slow animations, things like that. Just the overall slower gameplay. I do enjoy that. But I will say that, you know, skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty is what people dislike the most in Call of Duty. And I will say, playing XDefiant, I have not experienced that. And it seems to be the skill-based matchmaking is very tame in XDefiant, and that is already bringing people who enjoy Call of Duty over from Call of Duty into XDefiant. And that's just one of the highlights that I wanted to point out. We still kind of have some lag issues, some hit registration issues as well, that they have to kink out. But, you know, it's, you know, still a very solid closed beta, very much a improvement over what they did previously. And it seems like too, at the beginning, they were having a identity crisis with what they were trying to do with this game. And it kind of, you know, they had to go through a rebranding, things like that. And it seems now that they have kind of come into their own with this game now. And I think they have turned it around. They've turned it around because given the situation that they were in before, this seems to be a very much improved version of that game. But granted, you know, this still comes with its issues. But Mark Rubin reported that we are extending the beta by 2 days, so it now ends on Tuesday the 25th. So the beta hasn't gone the way we wanted to most ways, but in one way it has exceeded our expectations far beyond what we expected. And that's the reaction from you guys. And it's great to see that. I always like stories of game developers and things like that may have started out with a rocky launch, but were able to turn it around. You know, everybody talks about No Man's Sky. Granted, in my opinion, I think they created that own mess themselves by misrepresenting what the game originally was supposed to be versus actually just saying what the game is. But nonetheless, it is nice to see a turnaround for XDefiant. It is nice to see that the game is being received really well, as well. And it's nice that we get an alternative to Call of Duty, because one thing that I always wanted was that we needed more competition in the first person shooter space. And it seems like, EA's dropped the ball with Battlefield 2042 horrendously. And Call of Duty is, has always been that kind of go-to small arena shooter that people just gravitate towards. Battlefield dropping the ball, EA dropping the ball with Battlefield, 343 dropping the ball with Halo and things like that. And Call of Duty is starting to follow that trend as well. And I think they're just dependent upon the brand itself trying to carry the game versus actually doing things that improve upon the game in a way that will allow the community to play for a long amount of time and not necessarily get burnt out, not necessarily deal with certain elements of the game that have changed to where it leaves a bad taste in the consumer's mouth. So it's just like, it's nice to kind of have like this alternative in the space that can kind of generate some good rapport with the first person shooter community and things like that. I still think they have like a lot of polishing to do. It is, to me, from my experience, just an average shooter. It's not necessarily detrimental to the community or to just this space. And it's also not necessarily the greatest thing that I've seen ever. Pretty much generic, pretty much just a game to just hop in, run a couple matches with your friends, things like that. The battle pass seems very, very bland, basic, things like that. One thing I will say, though, is that the shooting mechanics, they're very fast and swift, but I don't get that same punchiness. I don't get that same feel when I'm aiming at a target and shooting a target. I don't get that same feel when doing that. And so this is just one of those things where I'm just like, okay, this can be touched upon. It's not graphically, it's not the best looking either. But like I said, it's a closed beta. They have time to kind of just polish things up. Polishing things and making things look good don't really take that long to do. The core game itself is there. The gameplay loop is there. Granted, the gameplay loop isn't spectacular. It's not anything that you haven't seen before. It's just a generic shooter, but it's nice to see a developer turn things around, pay attention to the community, listen to what the community wants, because at the end of the day, you want people to buy your game. You want people to invest in your product. And a lot of the times I think corporations and developers and development studios and production studios forget about that. They try to find what's popular in a different space and then try to mimic that popularity and transition that into another space, thinking that that's what that community likes and enjoys. And it's just like not the case at all. So I'm glad to see Ubisoft finally getting some good feedback, because they've been hit with letdown after letdown after letdown, and we'll also get into that as well later. But yeah, nice to see XDefiant actually getting some good feedback on a product that they're trying to deliver to the space. So next we have Dead Island 2, and I actually have been enjoying this game a lot lately. Purchased it yesterday, and as of today, which is Saturday, I'm recording this, so it'll be Friday I purchased this. Day one, haven't running any not too much issues. It delivered exactly what I expected. I expected a very fun zombie killing game that didn't go above and beyond. I'm not expecting like too much from from Dead Island 2 and just zombie games in general. I play a lot of survival games and stuff like that, namely The Forest or Sons of the Forest, things like that. Scum as well. Scum's also another really good survival game that involves zombies. The Sons of the Forest mostly involves like I guess mutants. But Dead Island 2 actually delivered on what I was expecting, and it seems like a lot of other critics and users also agree with this. I purchased mine from Epic Game Store on PC, so I can't necessarily contribute my experience to consoles, nor am I trying to review the game, but I'm just going to give you my personal opinion on it. If you enjoy mindless zombie killing, not necessarily looking for an in-depth story, but if you enjoy mindless zombie killing and a fun shooter or fun time or experience with especially with another friend, I think this game is enjoyable on its own, but I also think this game is very much enjoyable, and it sets the stage for co-op. If you're a big co-op fan, like I am, co-op is amazing in this game. Everyone gets their own loot, so there's no shared loot, so you kind of have to communicate, hey, I found this over here in this corner, you should come over here and get this product, get this material and things like that. And I think it just really sets the stage for games who go through development hell. Like, if anything, this game is an example of going through development hell and then still producing a really good product. Because typically when games go through development hell, they come out like shoddy. They come out like broken, buggy. They come out like not the original vision of the game. And, you know, ultimately, when you see a game go through development hell, it's not going to play out how people expect it to be. And this just shows that, you know, a game that can get canceled, get passed around to multiple different development studios, and it just shows you that Dan Buster put in a lot of work. You know, as far like graphically, the game looks phenomenal. I run Dead Island 2 at 1440p, 144 frames per second, all on high settings. It looks amazing. I think I probably get about maybe 100 to 105 frames per second with no major dips anywhere. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed this game. It really basically got me hyped because I enjoy doing survival games with a friend, and it just really got me excited. So we can go through some of the comments. I'm not going to go through any of the super high ones. I typically enjoy looking at kind of the mid ones because it kind of gives you the flaws and the good and the bad. But from WCC of Tech, they go on to say, for being a game that has been in development hell for over 10 years, exactly, Dead Island 2 turned out all right. Thanks to the wacky atmosphere and characters, fun combat, acceptable quest quality, all of these features, however, become progressively worse as the campaign proceeds, making the game nothing more than an acceptable experience that may not be worthy of its full price tag for those looking for something a bit more involving. And that's kind of like what I'm saying is that, you know, it's if you going in with expectations of something more than just, you know, mid, you're going to be let down. But if you go in and you expect it to just play a game that runs smoothly, that runs like very smoothly and just wanting to kill zombies, then I think you're going to enjoy this game. Me personally, it brings a lot of the elements from the original games, from Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide. And I think you're going to actually enjoy just playing this game with a friend, or even just by yourself. Like I said, it's enjoyable to look at, especially with the flesh system that Dan Buster has introduced, where you can literally see each bit of damage that you do to a zombie in the game. And it actually correlates with the particular weapon that you're using too as well. So daggers, swords, hammers, crowbars, wrenches, things like that, you can actually see the different types of damage that you're doing to the zombie, and that's actually exceptional all on its own. Because of me personally, I've never played a game or seen a game pay so close attention to detail regarding that aspect of combat in a game. And I'm hoping that that kind of technology can kind of translate over into other games as well, outside of just the zombie genre. So hopefully they can like push the flesh system even more across multiple different games, or Dan Buster can, probably take over Dead Island moving forward. It came out to middling reviews, but hopefully the sales dictate a sequel to this game, and hopefully we can kind of get maybe a Dead Island 3 or a spin-off to Dead Island 2 or something like that, where the game can be a little bit more polished, or it can give other features that people may have wanted. I know one of the big things that people kind of brought up before the game release was that it wasn't fully open world. Now, my opinion on that is that I think I prefer the system that they have in place now, where there's clusters of maps, but each cluster of there's cluster of sections on the map, but each cluster delivers a very deep and detailed section of the world, and it gives you more to kind of like explore, to do, and things like that, versus in previous iterations or just open world games in general. You end up getting a very large map, but there's a lot of downtime and just emptiness, and I feel like it's just a waste of development time. Me personally, I think it's just a waste of development time to be creating these massive maps, especially for just like a 1 to 3 player co-op game. It makes a lot more sense if you're doing a MMO, or if you're doing something kind of like Grand Theft Auto, or Grand Theft Auto Online and things like that. But I think me personally, I enjoy these small clusters of maps because it makes the world feel more lived in. It makes the world feel more alive. And it increases my immersion because they can make these clusters more dense with just different items and materials to pick up, the world, the scale of it. I feel like with smaller spaces, you can make it more vertical. You can make it more vertical versus just wide open emptiness. So that's just kind of my opinion with Dead Island 2. But I enjoy just the sheer investment and time that Dan Buster has put into this game, and actually taking over a project that has been passed around with different ideas, different implementations, things like that, and it makes it feel more like the development that the developers actually care about the product that they're working on, versus being dictated to by management. Like, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, and this is what this is, and we don't care about anything else like that. This is what's trendy, this is what people are liking right now, and we're just trying to make a quick buck. And that's kind of what I enjoy when I play these styles of games, and just the roadmap, or just not necessarily the roadmap, but the development cycle and history behind the game. And this is a W for Dan Buster, in my opinion. I think they did a great job. I enjoyed Dead Island 2. Can't wait to finally finish the game as well. I also saw some point of contention with people specifically talking about the length of the game and stuff. And I think in totality, the story is like 20 hours and things like that. Like, when you think about it, God of War and God of War Ragnarok, they were both around the 20-25 hour range. It's actually a lot of time to spend in a world that's dense like that, and stuff like that. And that's what I'm basically saying is, like, I don't think that's too little of amount of time to spend in the game. You know, you think about it, Call of Duty's campaign is like 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. So I think like the 25 hour range is actually a really nice, a sweet spot, in my opinion, to be in a world. And one of the other good things about this game too is that when you pick a character and the preset skills that come with that character, you can't change that character, or you can't kind of replace those skills that character has. You kind of have to play through it all the way to the end. I like that because it implores people to go back and play the game. So there's a replayability feature there, so you can play as different characters with different skill sets, and you're not only just getting those same 25 hours of the game, but you're also you're getting some additional time with the game, but as from a different perspective, different characters, things like that, different things that you can do and explore. So I think all around, man, I think a 75 is definitely fair. I may have would have gone with an 80, but I think the critics kind of agree with the majority. I think you'll still have like some people who are it should have been a 90 or 100 or whatever, but in my opinion, there are some kind of controversial flaws that were implemented into the game. But in my opinion, I think Dead Island 2 is fantastic. I like it. It does come with some of its flaws. I didn't necessarily have any graphical issues other than I think maybe a few frame drops, but I think that was just kind of like far and few in between. So I enjoyed it. You guys should definitely check it out if you haven't played it already, or if you haven't played it, if you haven't jumped into any Dead Island games at all, I recommend starting with Dead Island Riptide first. Dead Island is a bit on the older side. I think that game could use a remake actually, or a remaster. But yeah, you guys should check out Dead Island Riptide first if you haven't gotten into Dead Island before, or Dying Light. Not Dying Light 2, Dying Light 1, but that's a completely different story. So moving on, we got Atlas Fallen. So Atlas Fallen is actually a game developed by Deck 13. If you don't know Deck 13, they worked on Lords of the Fallen and the Surge games, Surge 1 and 2. Those games were more, well, the Surge games in particular were more like Dark Souls games. Same kind of Dark Souls combat, things like that, just placed in a more futuristic setting, like a futuristic, I guess like a robotic, post-apocalyptic, dystopian type future or whatever like that. And they're back again with Atlas Fallen. But one of the things I wanted to point out with Atlas Fallen is that they are attempting fully synchronized co-op, and cutscenes included, so everything. And this is kind of what Saints Row, the remake, tried to do. Unfortunately, they failed at it. They didn't necessarily fail. They kind of accomplished it, but it was buggy, broken. Co-op just really didn't work, and nobody liked the story or characters, anything like that. But that's beside the point. But Atlas Fallen does look like a great game. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's a third person melee focused RPG. I want to say like a fantasy RPG, but one of the big things about this game though is that they're going all in on co-op. So if you are a co-op fan, if you are a person who enjoys playing with your friends and things like that, this game will satisfy that. Now I've watched Skill Up's review on it. I'll put his link for his video in the description, but he during his gameplay, during his time with it, the gameplay looks really good. They do have a few things that they need to polish, but the combat itself, the combat and the co-op, I think it's what's going to keep players around for this game. We didn't really get to see too many story elements in the gameplay, but just the overall mobility. So it's kind of like you have this ability to sand slide, and it's kind of like you're surfing on the sand, basically. That it looks really nice. But one of the things that I also wanted to point out too, that the co-founder and managing director kind of spoke about, was that they say that therefore, while one player is hosting the game, the second player can do everything the first player can, apart from setting the server rules, of course. They can find loot, start boss fights, talk to NPCs, and receive and complete quests. Progress and loot are shared. There are some matchmaking rules that the game applies in order to balance out the experience, but that's mainly it. And yes, cutscenes do acknowledge the presence of another player. That's one of the things that I always wanted in my co-op games, was that when I'm playing with my friends, I would rather enjoy playing it with or at least playing with my friends and having them included in the cutscene and the story, and not necessarily like just show me and my person in the story, or basically just while I'm in a cutscene, for instance, like games like Mass Effect, even though it's single player, but that, or Mass Effect or Horizon, or whenever you're sitting and you're talking to an NPC, getting a side quest or a story. There's some games where I can't remember now, but your co-op partner's just running around in the background, things like that. I personally enjoy the fact that they can get pulled into the cutscene, they can get pulled into the conversation, they can get pulled into that, and they can do everything that I can do. And it kind of increases that immersion. It increases the co-op experience for me. Now, depending on who your friends are, if you have annoying friends that just, do shit for just the sake of doing shit, that's completely different. But you may want to play single player by yourself then, if that's the case. But we all have that one friend that just has to do something annoying. But if you have like a good group of friends or whatever, and you're playing a co-op story, actually I think this may actually just be 1 to 2 player co-op. I don't think this is anything higher than 2 player. I'd have to fact check that. But it is nice to kind of have like a fully true co-op experience where your character and your partner's character are included within that cutscene, and it makes it just a really, really great experience. The game is co-op centric. It does have or co-op and combat centric, I'm sorry. And it has the normal skill trees, things like that. But you should definitely check it out. One of the other things too I wanted to point out though is that this game is releasing on PC at $50 and on consoles $60 on console. That is great news. It's awesome, especially given into the the kind of landscape we're getting, where games are trying to charge you $70, and they're either coming out broken, delayed, or, half baked and missing features and shit that don't necessarily justify the price tag. That's a completely different story. But I wanted to highlight that it is coming out on consoles at $50, on consoles at $60, and on PC at $50. They did delay it to May 16th, or to August 10th from May 16th, which, I'm all good for delaying things, but I do feel like it's becoming a trend. I do feel like it's becoming like a habit for developers to just delay things for the sake of delaying things, and it's just ridiculous. But make sure you guys keep an eye out for this game. I'll put a link in the description for this if you guys want to check it out as well. But yeah, so moving on, we also have Splinter Cell. So I want to kind of bring up this little tidbit. Won't land on it too much, but apparently there was going to be a Splinter Cell Battle Royale. It got canceled by Ubisoft. My opinion, I don't think Splinter Cell can really exist as a Battle Royale. Everything doesn't need to be a Battle Royale. And this is one prime example of what I'm talking about when developers and companies trend chase. And trend chasing is just detrimental to an already existing IP or an already existing franchise a lot of the times. And having this be like a Battle Royale, which technically from the description of it, it sounds more so like Hunt Showdown. It sounds more so like that. But according to the alleged playtest, the new Splinter Cell project was called Splinter Cell Hunters and was intended to be a battle royale game with PvPvE elements. The game features spy operators, another name for classes, and they would have been tasked with killing 4 high-level targets while encountering up to 30 other players and AI enemies. Once the targets were eliminated, players would need to loot caches and extract from the map. So it kind of sounds more like Hunt Showdown, and things like that. To me personally, I've played Splinter Cell 1 and 2. I played the one where it was just solo, and then I played the co-op one where you and your teammate kind of like tackle missions, and you tackle them in like more of a silent, stealthy way, and you accomplish these missions together, basically. But I think this kind of takes the spirit out of Splinter Cell and that stealthy tactical planning and things like that, and it's kind of trying to flip it on its head to be more of like an action type shooter, and it's more so just like, we don't need to just have a battle royale of everything. So interestingly, when a spy operator died, they would respawn as a merc. This was one interesting bit, but it gets complicated past this point. An armored soldier at an outpost who would then be tasked with hunting down other spies, including their former teammate. If the player succeeded in eliminating their teammate, they would then respawn as a spy again, but this time they would be grouped solo and marked as a traitor spy. Based on the report, Splinter Cell Hunters did not appear to rely on the typical battle royale gameplay mechanic where the last man standing would be victorious. So it's kind of like, once again, Ubisoft are trying to develop games with an identity crisis. And it's like these things sound good on paper, but actually trying to implement this into a real world setting or real world scenario by actually developing it into a product and serving it to gamers, I just think that it wouldn't have worked. Splinter Cell is not a property that is meant to be a battle royale, in my opinion. It can work as a 2-player co-op game, but effectively doing Splinter Cell right only works as a single player game, in my opinion. I don't think you can't have this massive multiplayer online game and try to turn it into something that it's not, And this is what I mean by just like regurgitation, trend chasing, things like that. It's getting like ridiculous, and you kind of destroy properties when you do this kind of thing. So kind of glad they made the right decision to cancel this, along with Ghost Recon Frontlines, which was also another battle royale. And I think this was kind of something that they were just trying to mass produce, because that's what it seems like. That's what they're doing with Assassin's Creed. They're just trying to mass produce properties that they already have, that they think that have a brand name that people enjoy, and they're just trying to mass produce turd after turd after turd. They don't care about what actually goes into the game. They just care about, okay, what's trendy right now, instead of actually taking 4, 5, 6 years to develop a very good game that fits within that world. And so I'm just kind of glad they kind of basically canceled the game. And I don't think you can do Splinter Cell any justice with that. Even though and my thing is, like, the community has been asking for Splinter Cell a lot, and just giving them this kind of Splinter Cell, you would have did more damage than good by doing it this way. But that's just my opinion on that. So another thing that happened that I also want to touch up on too, is the last thing, is that Call of Duty and their egregious microtransaction and now almost similarly turning to a pay to win type of scenario. And it kind of involves one of the operators' roles, and the skin called Thorns Out, specifically for the DMZ mode. And this is what I mean by like free to play shooters and stuff like that. It's like, especially dealing with developers like Activision, Blizzard, EA, things like that. I personally do not enjoy free to play games for too long. Free to play games have to do something spectacular for me to invest my time in for the long haul. And specifically, there's always going to be issues with free to play games as far as cheaters, things breaking left and right, and just having something that's just open to masses like that. I know a lot of people don't agree with paywalling certain things, but it's like, for me, when I pay for a game, I get a better experience as far as on the multiplayer side. When I play Call of Duty multiplayer, I get a better experience than when I'm playing DMZ or Warzone. I don't get any kind of abnormalities or anything like that go on the majority of the time. There are things that happen from time to time, but I don't get as much of it. But as far as this goes, this is kind of like a pay to win decision, with the skin offered up for $15. And apparently, a lot of people are just not agreeing with this. As they go on to say down here, where some Reddit users are saying that this is the worst dev decision they've ever seen. People are actually officially done with the game now. Says that this is the first battle pass that I would not buy in Warzone. I hardly even play it at this point. And that kind of points to the previous reports of Warzone and DMZ having a dwindling player base. And I think this is just a byproduct of people leaving the game. I think this is a byproduct of people leaving the game because corporations and developers and stuff like that, they don't make changes to their problems. They double down on it. So when they double down on these problems, this is what it looks like. They don't care to try to make any additional changes, anything like that. For the people that think that Activision actually cares about your opinion and thoughts on things like that, they don't. They only care about taking what's in your wallet and continuing to do that. They will not make any changes. They'll double down and make things worse. And then what'll happen is that eventually the game will be a shell of itself. So this is why I kind of don't enjoy free to play games. I'm on the side of like, I don't think free to play games should exist on consoles, like mainline things, with consoles, PCs. For me, free to play is a model that exists solely for mobile devices, things like that. Free to play comes with a whole host of issues when you implement it into a mainline series of games and then put them on platforms where most gamers live on, versus mobiles are more like casual audience, given the fact that there's more, there's a thin line between a gamer playing on a PC and console versus a mobile like a phone. So it's just like, or a tablet. And so in my opinion, I don't necessarily like agree with the free to play model per se, but hey, there's something out there for everybody. But I just want to touch upon this though, and just say that, Activision is going to continue to be Activision. You're not going to see any changes. They're not going to make changes to their model that has always been successful. So they're just going to keep continuing to roll out these games. Even with Microsoft purchasing Activision, that's not going to change. The game itself, the monetization model itself is not going to change. You're going to get pay to win items moving forward continuously. It's not going to change at all. The only way that this can actually change is if you vote with your wallet. And even then, sometimes their developers or corporations are so hard headed, they don't care about you voting with your wallet. They'll double down on the nonsense. So I just think that, it's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? It's little ridiculous, but I think that a lot of people are upset with the decision being made here with the pay to win model and idea that has been implemented with this particular operator. But yeah, if you guys enjoy the content, though, it's the end for the day. But if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you like, subscribe to the video. And yeah, I'll be dropping these once a week. And we can just continue to talk about, you know, the bullshit and craziness that happens in the gaming sphere. So thank you guys for tuning in today, and I'll see you guys next week.